We're back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen. We'd like to introduce John Jacobs, Chairman and CEO of Harmony Biosciences. John, what is Harmony Biosciences? What are you guys doing?
Harmony is a pharmaceutical company that focuses on developing medicines for rare CNS disorders.
How large or how small is the organization?
We have 150 employees. We've been 2 years in operation now.
Alrighty, where are you from originally?
Long Island, New York.
How many brothers and sisters?
I have one younger brother.
Jeffrey?
So, John, what was going on with you ages 8 to 14 at home and with your family?
Thank you, Jeff. When I was 9, my parents got divorced. It was a relatively amicable divorce, and they got along well overall, but a bad fit for each other, so they split. And at that time, Mom decided to take us on a bit of an adventure and moved us down to the island of Barbados.
Interesting.
Keep going there. Yeah.
Well, Barbados was a unique experience. Growing up in a mostly white suburb, middle-class neighborhood in New York, I hadn't really experienced any other cultures. And I thought we had it tough after the divorce, that, economics got tough in the family. But in Barbados, I was exposed to some remarkable events that helped to shape the mind of me as a young 10-year-old
Like
child.
what?
Like what?
Yeah.
I was exposed to, first of all, extreme poverty. And it was coupled with remarkable joy, which really struck me. And our family became friends with a woman named Beatrice. Long story short, she had us to dinner at her home. And I'd never seen a house like this in my life. It was a 12 by 12 wooden shack with a corrugated metal roof and no running water. And it was remarkable to me that she didn't have all the things we had, a pool or a house with the televisions everywhere and all these things. Yet she was one of the most happy, humble, joyous people I ever met in my entire life. And the reason why was family, her children. And she was just so grateful to be alive and enjoyed her friends and her kids so much. And it was an early lesson for me on what's really important. And I think that humility and that gratefulness are the foundations of great leadership. I didn't know it at the time, but.
John, we learned in the green room you were quite the hustler at a young age and started kind of earning money at as a young age. What were you doing?
Boy, oh boy, anything I could that was legal and ethical to make a dollar. So I raked lawns, I shoveled driveways. The moment it snowed, I thought cash. I was up the first, the minute daylight hit, I got the shovel out of the garage and knocked door to door.
Why was it important to you to work hard like that?
It was important because Mom didn't have a college education. And after the divorce, Dad married into a large family and economics got really tight. And my brother and I didn't have too many clothes, and I got teased in school for having holes in my pants a couple of times. And that motivated me to put money in the bank. I was actually making a couple $100 a week in the 80s as a 13-year-old and buying clothes for my brother and I.
I love how you remember that. What did that experience teach you about being a leader today?
It taught me about taking charge of the situation and not sitting back. And that when you see something you feel you can make better, to have the courage to move forward and just go for it. And it won't always work your way, but take the chance and do it.
Where did you get the courage to do what you're doing now?
Tell you where I got the courage. There was one moment in my life that gave me endless courage. It'll never go away. And that was in college. I was a lacrosse player. I took a hard hit during a game. And at the time I didn't know my spleen was ruptured and I was bleeding to death. And I passed out in the locker room and they called the ambulance and I was in and out of consciousness. The last moment I remember was looking up at the mirrored lights in the ceiling of the hospital and seeing my own reflection on a stretcher. I woke up a week later in intensive care. I had had a near-death experience and was a miracle survivor. My family was there, the lacrosse team was there, the nursing staff were there to meet me. And that experience taught me that the only thing I thought about through that journey, and it was a journey at that time, was the relationships in my life. The things I did that I should have done, and the opportunities to do things that I didn't do. A hug to a friend, love and caring for others, and putting other people before yourselves. That's all that mattered when I was in that moment. Nothing, no titles, no material items, nothing else matters more than that. And that was such a great lesson at 20 years old to learn.
That's a significant loss of control. Tell me about how that translates to what you're doing today with CNS.
It's a great question, David. Look, I do believe that we can, with all of our efforts, shape energy and the environment around us by how we treat others and how we carry ourselves with dignity and respect for everybody we work with. And CNS and medicine is important to me because we're helping patients who don't have hope by bringing new medicines forward. And that's what we do at Harmony. But as well as helping patients, which is our top priority, we also want to give back to our local community and our employees. And I want to leave a legacy, and so does our leadership team, that we touch people's lives in an important way, whether it's holding the door for someone in the morning to walk into the building, or bringing a patient a new medicine, or having our employees go home at night feeling cared about and protected and well rewarded for their efforts.
John, in the green room, you mentioned that while you were in the ICU, you kept thinking about how all you wanted was a best friend to raise a boy and a girl.
Absolutely. And I'm not sure if I was conscious or not at the time, but what I knew and what I thought and felt at that moment and prayed for and wished for was to have my best friend that was my wife and have a son and a daughter. The week I got home, almost 30 years ago from that event, I met Paulette, my best friend and partner for life, who I love more than my own life. And we have a son and a daughter together. So I'm already a rich person because everything that really matters through that lesson I already have.
John, I work for you, and I know that you create a psychologically and emotionally safe space for all of us at Harmony, and we're grateful for that. Take us back to when that started for you and creating safe and emotional places for other people.
Thank you, Kate. It really started back in school and moving to a couple of different schools through that environment and just seeing bullies, kids picking on other kids. It really bothered me a lot. Our parents raised us to treat everybody well. And I had the courage to step up and stand up to those bullies to help those kids. And that was the beginning of the journey, Kate. But right away, when I saw something wrong, I wanted to fix it.
So, saw something wrong. You talk about these incidents of being at dinner at a woman's house in Barbados, noticing bullying. These are things that most kids don't pay attention to. So where did you get this propensity to see things at a very young age? And how does it help you in what you see in what your work today?
I think I got a lot of that from my mom, from both parents, but from my mom.
What did your mom do?
My mom's an artist and a musician and is a very sensitive person and connects well with other people and has a very spiritual sense to her that's contagious.
How do you bring that in yourself to work every day?
At all moments, no matter what meeting I'm in, no matter who I'm interacting with, I'm always thinking about how that other person is feeling. And we may want to achieve something, as an example, in a meeting. We could win an outcome, but have people leave feeling less about themselves. And I worry about that.
So you know what it feels like to be the patient.
Yes.
And from your own experience. So how do you help your patients with their drugs and helping see what they need? What do you connect there in the work that you do?
In everything we do, we put patients first, and it starts with listening. From the first week we founded the company, we were sitting here in Philadelphia in a room with 12 patients suffering from narcolepsy, which is what our drug will help to treat. And we just listened to their stories to try to understand how they feel so we could help make it better.
John, what's in a name? What's Harmony mean to you?
What it means to me is that we're working in harmony with every core element of the company that's important: our employees, our local community, each other, and how we treat each other every day in the company, and how we treat people externally, first and foremost with the patients at the heart of everything we do. And it says that right in our lobby, and we mean it. It's easy to say it, but we walk the walk.
John, so much of your journey is about learning how to take charge. How young were you when you first took charge?
Probably 6 years old.
Who taught you? How'd you figure it out?
I just always had a drive to be the leader.
What happened when you were 6 that you're referring to?
We were actually flipping baseball cards against a back wall.
Who's we?
My buddies and I in 6th grade on recess.
And how did you take charge of that?
I didn't think the process was fair, and I saw someone cheat, so I picked up all the cards, gave it back to everyone from the beginning, and reset the rules.
And are you still doing that today?
I am. Yeah.
How do you do that today?
In every way, shape, and form, I try to do the right thing. One quick example: I was in Home Depot, bought a bunch of things. They forgot to charge me for one item. I was in the parking lot with my son, John. I noticed. He said, "Dad, you got it for free." I said, "No, we didn't. Your name is a brand, and what you're worth comes with your dignity and how you handle yourself." We went back in and paid for it to teach John the lesson that nothing's for free, and you don't sacrifice your name for something like that.
Stand for? What does CNS stand for?
Central Nervous System.
And what happens if the central nervous system isn't working?
Oh boy.
So the body doesn't function. So
no, the body doesn't function.
So
correct.
having the heartbeat and the central nervous system within your company in harmony is everything to the things you do. Correct?
Yeah, the central nervous system is the central control for everything. And so it keeps the body running safely and correctly and appropriately. And that's the same way we see our culture, is always keeping it humming.
John, what's the website address for Harmony Biosciences?
It is that harmony, as you spell the normal word harmony, followed by Biosciences with an S at the end.com.
We've been speaking with John Jacobs, Chairman and CEO of Harmony Biosciences. We'll be back in a moment right after this break.